Half a teaspoon. That's it. Half a teaspoon of one natural extract can match ibuprofen for inflammation. No prescription. No pharmacy. No side effects destroying your stomach lining. And the craziest part? Most people have this sitting in their kitchen cabinet right now and have no idea what it's actually capable of. We're talking about turmeric. But hold on. Before you go dumping the stuff from your spice rack into your morning smoothie, you need to understand something important. The turmeric you sprinkle on your eggs or toss into a curry isn't going to cut it, not even close. Because turmeric is a spice, and while it's great for flavor, the real power comes from a specific compound locked inside it called curcumin. Curcumin is the active ingredient doing all the heavy lifting, and to get enough of it to actually move the needle on pain and inflammation, you need a concentrated extract, not a pinch of yellow powder. So let's break this down properly, because most explanations out there make this way more complicated than it needs to be. They throw around biochemical terms, pathway names, enzyme abbreviations, and by the end, you're more confused than when you started. Forget all that. Here's what you actually need to understand. Your body has 4 master switches that control pain and inflammation. Think of them like dials on a control panel. They either turn inflammation up or they turn it down. That's the entire game. Every painkiller, every anti-inflammatory drug, every natural remedy you've ever heard of works by targeting one or more of these 4 dials. The first dial is the pain and inflammation factory. This is the production line. It's the pathway that physically manufactures pain signals and inflammatory compounds and pumps them out into your body. When this dial is cranked up, you feel it. Aching joints, throbbing headaches, that deep, persistent soreness that won't go away. The second dial is the master inflammation switch. Think of this as the circuit breaker for your entire inflammatory system. When this gets flipped on, it doesn't just trigger one response. It activates hundreds of different genes, all related to inflammation. Hundreds. It's like someone walking into a control room and flipping every single switch to the on position at once. This is the big one. This is the dial that drives chronic, systemic inflammation throughout your entire body. The third dial is the inflammation megaphone. This one doesn't create pain directly. What it does is amplify inflammation that's already happening. It takes a small inflammatory signal and cranks the volume up to 11. It keeps the fire burning long after it should have gone out. This is why so many drugs designed for autoimmune conditions specifically target this pathway. Because in autoimmune disease, the megaphone is stuck on full blast. The body's inflammatory response just keeps screaming and screaming with no off switch. And then there's the fourth dial, the backup alarm system. This is the sneaky one. Even if you manage to shut down the other 3 pathways, this fourth one can still activate independently. It's like a security alarm that keeps going off after you've already put out the fire, left the building, and called it a day. This backup system is particularly important in conditions like asthma, chronic inflammation, and autoimmune disease. It's the reason why some treatments help with certain symptoms, but never fully resolve the problem. Now you understand the 4 dials. Let's talk about what ibuprofen actually does to them. Ibuprofen is effective. Nobody's arguing that. It targets that first dial, the pain and inflammation factory, and it shuts it down fast. You take it, and within 30 to 60 minutes, you feel relief. The production line stops. Pain signals drop. Inflammation decreases. It works. But here's what they don't put on the label in big letters. That first pathway, the one ibuprofen shuts down, doesn't just produce pain and inflammation. Part of that same pathway is responsible for protecting your stomach lining and maintaining healthy kidney function. So when ibuprofen turns off that dial, it turns off the protection too. That's where the side effects come from. Stomach ulcers, kidney damage, gastrointestinal bleeding. These aren't rare complications. They're well-documented consequences of long-term ibuprofen use. And here's the other problem. Ibuprofen only touches that one dial. It does nothing for the master inflammation switch, nothing for the megaphone, nothing for the backup alarm. So the underlying inflammatory process keeps running in the background, which is exactly why people end up taking ibuprofen day after day, week after week, month after month. It's managing symptoms without addressing the full picture. Now let's compare that to a couple of other common options. Tylenol doesn't even affect any of these four pathways. Tylenol works in your brain. It tells your central nervous system to stop registering pain. So you don't feel the inflammation, but it's still there. Every bit of it. Still damaging tissue. Still driving disease. You just can't feel it anymore. And on top of that, Tylenol carries significant liver toxicity risks with regular use. Aspirin targets the same pathway as ibuprofen, that first dial only. Same limitation, same stomach side effects, same reason people on long-term aspirin sometimes develop bleeding ulcers. If you've been cycling through these options for years, wondering why the pain keeps coming back, drop a comment below. You're not alone, and this is exactly why. Now let's talk about turmeric and why it plays a completely different game. Curcumin, the active compound in concentrated turmeric extract, doesn't just hit one dial. It hits 3 of the 4. It targets the pain and inflammation factory. It targets the master inflammation switch. And it targets the inflammation megaphone. All 3. Now, it's not as aggressively powerful on that first pathway as ibuprofen. It doesn't slam the door shut the same way. But it turns down multiple dials at once, which creates a broader anti-inflammatory effect across your entire system. And this isn't speculation. There's a specific study worth knowing about. Randomized controlled trial, double-blind, peer-reviewed, published in a legitimate journal, conducted on 367 human participants, not mice, not cell cultures, actual people. And it found that 1,500 milligrams of concentrated curcumin, taken with black pepper to enhance absorption, produced comparable effects to ibuprofen for reducing pain and inflammation. Comparable. And the critical difference? Without the gastrointestinal and kidney side effects. That black pepper detail matters, by the way. Curcumin on its own has poor bioavailability. Your body struggles to absorb it efficiently. But piperine, the active compound in black pepper, increases curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%. So if you're taking a curcumin supplement without black pepper extract, you're throwing most of it away. But turmeric isn't the only natural compound that works on these pathways. Let's talk about a few others and where they fit into the picture. Extra virgin olive oil. The real stuff, not the diluted garbage that fills most supermarket shelves, mimics some of ibuprofen's effects at the molecular level. Not as potent, but it turns down that first dial. Here's a fascinating detail. You know that slight tingle or burn you feel in the back of your throat when you taste genuine extra virgin olive oil? That same sensation happens when you take liquid ibuprofen. They're triggering the same receptors. That throat burn is actually a marker of the anti-inflammatory compounds in the oil. Use it daily on salads. It adds up over time. Ginger is another one that doesn't get the credit it deserves. Ginger works specifically on the third pathway, the inflammation megaphone, the amplifier. It helps turn down the volume on inflammation that's already been triggered. It's particularly effective for chronic inflammatory conditions, where the body's response has gotten stuck in a loop. Omega-3 fatty acids from fish oil or cod liver oil also target that megaphone pathway. This is one of the reasons why populations with high omega-3 intake historically show lower rates of inflammatory disease. It's not magic. It's biochemistry. Boswellia, an herb derived from the Boswellia serrata tree, targets the fourth pathway, the backup alarm system, the one that keeps firing even when everything else has been addressed. This makes Boswellia particularly valuable for stubborn inflammatory conditions that don't respond to other interventions. It's hitting the pathway that most treatments completely miss. So now you understand what turns inflammation off. But here's the bigger question nobody's asking. What turned it on in the first place? Because if you only focus on turning off the dials without understanding what's cranking them up, you're just playing defense forever. There are 5 primary root causes that activate all 4 inflammatory pathways at the same time. First, and arguably the biggest, insulin resistance. This develops when you consume excessive carbohydrates, sugar, and starch over long periods. Frequent eating and snacking throughout the day accelerates it. And seed oils, those cheap vegetable oils in virtually every processed food, contribute to it directly. People with insulin resistance carry chronic systemic inflammation. Not a coincidence. Second, Mitochondrial damage. Your mitochondria are the energy factories inside every cell. They get damaged by smoking, junk food, ultra-processed foods, overtraining, sleep deprivation, and sedentary lifestyles. When your mitochondria are compromised, inflammation follows. Third, chronic oxidative stress. This comes from toxin exposure, smoking, alcohol, and junk food consumption. When oxidative stress overwhelms your body's ability to neutralize it, inflammation becomes the default state. Fourth, leaky gut. The lining of your intestines is supposed to be selectively permeable. It lets nutrients through and keeps everything else out. But ultra-processed foods, gluten, and seed oils can damage that lining. When it breaks down, particles that should never enter your bloodstream start leaking through, triggering an immune response and chronic inflammation. Fifth, chronic infections, Lyme disease, Epstein-Barr virus, herpes viruses that go dormant and reactivate. These can simmer in the background for years, driving low-grade inflammation. And here's the kicker. Chronic stress can reactivate these dormant viruses, pulling them out of remission and reigniting the inflammatory cascade. These 5 root causes are what's actually driving the pain. So if you're taking medication to suppress the symptoms while ignoring these underlying triggers, you're missing the point entirely. The fix starts with diet. A low-carb approach directly addresses insulin resistance. Eliminating ultra-processed foods removes one of the biggest inflammatory triggers across all 5 categories. Intermittent fasting is one of the single most powerful anti-inflammatory interventions available. People who adopt it consistently report that chronic pain and arthritis symptoms just disappear. Extended fasting takes it even further. There are documented cases of severe autoimmune inflammatory conditions resolving completely with prolonged fasting protocols. On the nutrient side, magnesium deficiency drives both systemic and muscular inflammation. Vitamin D is one of the most potent natural anti-inflammatories in existence, and deficiency is epidemic. Zinc plays a critical role in immune regulation, and when levels drop, inflammation rises. And omega-3 fatty acids, which we already discussed, need to be in proper balance with omega-6s. The modern diet, loaded with seed oils, creates a massive omega-6 to omega-3 imbalance that directly fuels inflammation. This is the part that changes everything. Because managing pain with pills is a lifetime subscription. Correcting the root cause is a one-time fix. You address what's actually driving the inflammation, and the 4 dials turn themselves down. No side effects, no dependency, no monthly pharmacy runs. If this shifted how you think about pain and inflammation, subscribe. We break down what the health industry won't tell you every single week.